If I look a bit sweaty, well, I am. I just got back from the gym. So, there we are. Fortunately, you can't smell it from there, so that's okay, right? Today's reading is probably a little bit hard to understand, and even Reverend Jesse's explanation might not be completely satisfying. However, here it is. It's called Built Out of Belief. The first quote is from Hildegard von Bingen, or he says here, Hildegard of Bingen, who was a Middle Ages prioress. She was very well known. She was a mystic. She was quite outspoken, and she was not very popular with the Vatican. However, she had a lot of sway with different people, and the Vatican sort of left her alone because they didn't want to mess with her, even though a lot of her ideas really clashed with theirs because they weren't exactly standard Catholic or at that time Christian doctrine, because the Catholic Church was pretty well all there was. The Reformation had not started at that time. And she said, God's word is in all creation, visible and invisible. This word manifests itself in every creature. I don't think the Catholic Church would have objected to that. Well, of course, you never know. I don't know what the Catholic Church was like back then. And once again, my system is misbehaving itself. Oh, good grief. I just wish it would behave itself. You know, when I click the left mouse button to move anything, it immediately magnifies it immediately magnifies everything. So there's obviously some setting that I've not found that I need to change, because it's a little bit frustrating. But hey, as my mother used to say, worse things have happened at sea, and it's done it again. So I'm just gonna have to put up with it. What I try and do actually is I try to put the reading underneath where the camera is, so that I can actually, in principle, look more at the people to whom I'm speaking. Anyway, Hildegard von Bingen, as I said, she said, God's word is in all creation, visible and invisible. This word manifests itself in every creature. I really don't think that anybody at that time would have objected to that. And this thing is definitely, I'm going to have to either get a different mouse or find the setting that's really working this thing. Anyway, when Jesus explained to his disciples they'd failed to heal because of a lack of faith, they protested that they did have faith in God. Jesus explained to them that that was insufficient. They must have the faith of God. The faith of God is very different from a faith in God. This may be confusing, so just bear with us. The faith of God is God. And somewhere along the line of our spiritual evolution, this transition will gradually take place where we shall cease having a faith in and shall have the faith of. Always in such degree as this happens, a demonstration takes place. We must believe because God is belief. The physical universe is built out of belief. Faith, belief, acceptance, conviction. And that's actually from the Science of Mind textbook, pages 317 and 318. And that, well, my system has done it again. Would you believe it? Anyway, and that's from the single edition. If you bought a more recent edition of the Science of Mind textbook, and it's the double edition that's got the 1920s version and the 1930s version, then the reference is going to be somewhat different. This is Reverend Jesse's explanation. And as I said, he's my boss, so I'm not going to start arguing with him. Well, maybe I will. I do down there, so at the center. The difference between a faith in and a faith of is this. The former supposes a distance. We place our trust in outer things or persons to do what they do when they're supposed to do it, because we are not those things or persons. The faith we have in them is therefore often a leap of faith, where through repetition, our trust gradually grows. It's a whole different dynamic when we're dealing with something intrinsic that is our real nature as expressions of the one life. Got it, right? Now, we can think, speak, and act from a position of confidence, rooted in that which is creating everything out of itself, as we're helping to steer that creation as it pertains to our dreams and goals into material manifestation. My wife read this last night and she wasn't all that thrilled with the explanation, to be honest with you. So what do I have to say about that? It's probably like this, that when you know that you're an expression of one source, that you are intimately connected with that source because you're an expression of it, then your faith is in the knowingness that comes with that. Or put it another way, Jesus never asked for anything. So the faith in is when you're asking and you're saying, sometimes, and I think this is the real difference, you say you have faith. I have faith that God will do this, or this will come about. Then you are disconnected to some extent from the thing that you're asking to do something. So you're sometimes hoping that it's going to work. But it's when you go beyond that and you go to a stage of knowingness that you develop what they're calling here this faith of God. So if you read the Gospels and you read how Jesus behaved when he was, quote, performing miracles, unquote, then he never asked or begged for anything, and he didn't plead with God to do anything. He simply knew. You know, as we've said several times, when he brought Lazarus out of the tomb, he just simply said, Lazarus, come out. Why could he do that? Because, as he said, the Father and I are one. In other words, all that the Father has is mine. In the prodigal son, the parable, you know, the son who's naughty, kind of, he takes all his money, he goes off, he spends it in all this rough living, and then he ends up living in poverty because he spent it all. And then he says, I must go back to my Father and ask for forgiveness. Of course, we're talking about us and God. That's the whole story. The Father, in this sense, is God. But when he goes back there, the Father says, all that I have is yours. So in other words, Jesus knew that when he commanded something to happen, he was doing it with the authority of God. It's not his authority. He's an expression of that authority. The authority comes from the source of all being. So when we truly know and we have the faith of God, then we are doing it with a knowingness that we are expressions of that one source, and what we claim to happen is going to really going to happen. So to me, it's the difference between having faith that it might happen and hoping it might happen, and just simply knowing that it's going to happen because we know that we're one with the source from which we're claiming it. So instead of asking, we're claiming. And it's not being big-headed or anything like that. It's simply knowing that, yes, it's not our power, but the power is flowing through us, and we are one with that power, and therefore we can use that power. And when we know that, and we claim something in that knowingness, then to me, that's the faith of God. So does that work for you? I don't know. Does it still leave you wondering? Possibly. But anyway, that's it. Why you call it built out of belief? I don't know. But anyway, the affirmation is the divine presence that inhabits eternity as a dwelling place in my soul. The divine presence that inhabits eternity as a dwelling place in my soul. In other words, I'm one with the source of all being. It's not my power, it's the power of the one. but that power flows through me and I'm able to use it. And when I truly, truly know that, wonderful things happen. And when Holmes talks about a manifestation, he's talking about something that he's claimed in knowingness and that it's actually come to pass. So somebody's bank account that was empty suddenly has money in it. Somebody who was sick is suddenly well. Well, yeah, I can tell you a really cool thing. I'm not going to mention any names, but I can tell you this. One of my prayer partners had asked me to pray for something specifically. And we met, and I ended our prayer session with a treatment for several things, one of which was something that he wanted. I kid you not, within minutes after we finished, I sat down and my phone rang, and it was my prayer partner, and he was saying, guess what? The thing that he wanted to happen had happened within minutes of the prayer, the spiritual mind treatment. So it proves that this stuff works. You know, Bob Proctor, my late mentor, used to say, I've got license to brag about all this because none of it's mine. So in other words, it's not our power, but it's a power that we use. And it really, really works. So give it a shot. Reverend Always will be on tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. I'll be back tomorrow. Yeah, 5 o'clock should work tomorrow. And until then, just have a really good rest of the day whenever it is. And just know that you are an expression of one source. And the power of that one source is flowing through you. And when you truly claim and know that what you're claiming is coming to pass, it will come to pass. And if you leave it just open-ended enough, then if what you've claimed is not exactly right for you, this or something better, then the something better will happen, because the divine knows better than we do exactly what it is that we want and need. So until next time, namaste.